Good evening. It's 7 p.m., April 23rd, 2026, and I'd like to welcome everyone in the room and those participating online as I call to order this meeting of the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Board of Education for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. We value everyone's input and have made sure to dedicate a portion of this meeting to hear from you. Just in case you missed it, there's a sign-in sheet up by the front door. Anybody wishing to speak tonight, you can sign up there. We look forward to your comments during that time as it's indicated on our agenda. Mr. Gautam, please call the roll.
Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mrs. Dawn?
Here.
Mr. Kinsey?
Present.
Mr. Price? Dr. Pryor?
Present.
4 present.
All right, we have a quorum. If you're able, will you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. All right. As it's the second meeting of the month, is it correct? No treasurer's report needed tonight?
No, there's nothing.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any correspondence for the board that they'd like to share? All right, we'll move into our reports tonight. Up first, we would like to welcome our Greene County Career Center representative, Adam Ramel. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here as always. Just a couple of notes from the Greene County Career Center. We had our open house here recently and had over 1,200 students and families show up. So it's going to be a very full. We hold about 900 Career Center, so we're already at capacity. So we're looking at adding facilities and acquiring land to try and meet the demand of the students out there at Greene County. We also have a new culinary arts built. It'll have a 350 person banquet hall, and it'll allow more students to go through the culinary program. It's one of those programs that's been a big success out there at the Greene County Career Center. Senior recognition night will be May 12th at the Nutter Center, so there will be, it's where we celebrate their achievements. And then two things also going on this summer. May 13th from May through March 13th for the STEM camp in June, as well as the material and science camp also going on in June. Opportunities for both STEM support. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
So much.
All right. Next, we're excited to hear all about what's going on at Stephen Bell. Principal Mrs. Keaton and crew. Really appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to present tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ginger Keaton, building principal here at Stephen Bell Elementary. We have the pleasure tonight to present to the Board of Education and our community all about Stephen Bell, what is different. And so hopefully our Board of Education understands how passionate we are about PBIS. Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. We have shared with you all about Tier 1 and the success that we have had at Stephen Bell for many years. Tonight we really want to dive into what we are doing successfully with the Tier 1 supports based on data. And Ms. Caro, our kindergarten teacher, is going to dive into that data with you and how we are using that data instrumentally, particularly with recess. And then, because we are a bronze level award winner representing our district, we want to explain to you how we obtain that award, and that would dive into PBIS Tier 2. And what does PBIS Tier 2 mean? And a few of our team members are here this evening to explain how a PBIS team activates, how they work together, and how it impacts children. So we're very lucky that our assistant principal, Heather Hebrank, has had the passion, the drive, and the knowledge to put this together. And 2 teachers that have been working together collaboratively in 2nd grade. We have Kaylee Clark and Rachel Henry, and then kindergarten teacher who has been very instrumental in working cohesively with Heather Hebrank as our PBIS flex supplemental position, that's a mouthful, in working together to help with our check-in, check-out system for PBIS Tier 2. They're going to explain all of this very thoroughly to you. But I do want to stress that the PBIS Bronze Level Award definitely supports the framework for well-being and growth of our students. So I'm going to turn everything over to the team. And Ms. Caro is going to explain the impact in recess, the students' favorite part of the day.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having us again. So like Mrs. Keaton said, I'm going to touch on how we have improved recess and kind of started fresh, because this past summer, Mr. Eckley so graciously worked with us and allowed us to resurface our blacktop. So we got a new canvas. And with that, I worked with a local Girl Scout troop who was working on a special badge, and we repainted the whole thing. We added 4 squares, we added hopscotches, we added tic-tac-toe, the basketball court were repainted, so many fun things were added. But that led us to looking into our data, because recess happened to be our most common place for behavior interactions, whether that be working with against self, kind words, all of those things. We were having the most interactions on the playground. So we used our public schoolworks data to identify that the playground was in fact our most common area, and then we made the goal, which was part of my principal intern project, to reduce the number of behavior interactions during recess. And I'm very happy to share that we had an increase during the 2nd quarter, but then during the 3rd quarter, we were able to decrease recess behavior interactions by 15%. So, moving on to our recess needs, how we also approach this with our PBIS system. 100% of our teachers in Stephenville have taught and have reviewed both our indoor and outdoor recess scripts. And we do that at the beginning of the year, and then we review after any extended time off. So winter break, spring break, maybe an extra few snow days in there. And then we also were able to provide more structured recess activities and items for students and teachers to do during our inclement weather. This winter we had a lot of cold days, so students were cooped up inside, and that's where we saw that behavior increase. So providing them with brain breaks, with coloring papers, with structured workbooks during indoor playtime that also is screen-free was a great alternative to keep them busy. And then we also, thanks to BSEF, were able to purchase our new recess shed to keep all of our outdoor recess supplies in. So, moving on to our recess needs a little bit more. I already touched on it, but we did use public schoolworks data to identify students who struggle the most during recess, and then I took it on as an internship project to work one-on-one and do intervention with those students. So I met with them each 5 times, and we went over conflict resolution. We talked about how to soar during recess. We talked about how to just build those interpersonal relationships with our peers at such a young age. And those sessions were fluid. We had kids who graduated from it, and then we had kids where a need arose, and so we brought them in. And so that process is something I really hope to continue on as we go through the years. So to conclude my section, I just want to go over a couple recess glows, and I think my pointer is lagging, sorry. Students who had been referred for the recess intervention, by tracking our data through Public Schoolworks, we were able to have a successful decrease in their behaviors. All of them, all 4 students that I worked with, decreased their recess infractions by at least 50%. And then we were also able to, during those indoor recess provide students with more cooperative and structured activities to do during recess. Thanks to a donation from PTO of over $800, we were able to buy collaborative games such as Uno, Sorry. We bought stacking cups, more structured activities that would foster that teamwork and collaboration and communication. So we are very proud of all the gross motor and team building skills we've been able to foster here, and I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Pierce. Oh, Mrs. Hebring, sorry.
All right, so I get to talk about Tier 2, which I'm very excited to talk about and very passionate about it. It's something that I feel like our building has really taken on and been excited about, and our students are really growing because of it. So thinking about Tier 2, when we look at that MTSS structure just overall, these are kind of the middle of that triangle that we're looking at. And typically speaking, within districts, this is about 10 to 15% of our students. Here at Stephen Bell, I do want to point out, I do feel like our Tier 1 structures are so robust that we actually only have about 1% of our student population that fits within that. But as you all know, that 1% takes up a lot of our time. So Tier 2 is a really targeted, very specific behavior, additional behavior support that helps our students. It moves with data, and we really focus on early intervention to help build those skills and then prevent, growing concerns. So I'm really excited to share that, it's been super successful. We've started a team of teachers who are also equally as passionate about it. So we're very excited to continue growing this. We also monitor, we use student data, we use public schoolworks data, also the same as we do for our Tier 1. To look at this, we also utilize check-in, check-out. So that's our next slide. So this year we've added 2 major components to our Tier 2. So we started check-in, check-out last year, but we were new and we were learning, and you don't know what you don't know. So we definitely have grown this year, and I think that's our goal, is every year to get better and to get stronger. So when looking at check-in, check-out supports, this is example of what a Tier 2 sheet would look like for a student. That check-in, check-out looks very similar to just basically a mentor, if you will. The student would visit a mentor at the beginning of the morning. They would set goals for the day, whether that be calm body, safe hands, taking ownership, whatever that might look like, that's very specific to that student. So the students help set the goal with their mentor or their check-in, check-out person. And then they would set a goal for the day. So they may want to get 7 out of 9 smileys or 8 out of 9 smileys or whatever that might look like. We also encourage that middle faces don't mean bad. It just means, hey, we can work. We've got work to do, and that's okay. We never ask for perfection, obviously. We just want to see those numbers continue to increase and to grow. So then they would go to their classrooms. So they'd check in with their check-in person at the beginning of the day. They would then go to their classrooms and continue through the day, the teacher prompting with, hey, this is kind of what's coming next. What's our expected behavior? Our expected behavior is to take ownership. So I want to see you take ownership through our foundations time. At the end of the day, then they would revisit with their check-in, check-out mentor, and they would have a time for feedback, suggestions, reflection. Then we would either meet their goal, and so they would get rewarded of some kind. And that just builds off of our Tier 1 structures. That might look like 5 minutes of a walk with a teacher. It might look like a small pack of Skittles, not even a whole pack, like 5 maybe. It may look like extra golden tickets. It may look like helping a teacher do a duty at the end of the day. So the student really drives that goal setting. It's what's motivating to them. What did they want to do? We just had a kindergartner, great story. Our librarian is a check-in, check-out person, and she had asked him, hey, what do you want to earn for the end of the day? And the student shared, I really just want to read a book with you. And so they went to the book nook at the end of the day after he met his goal and sat and read a book together. So it can look very different for every student, but it's quality time, one-on-one time, and a lot of times these students are attention-seeking students, so they're really getting the attention that they really want. And it's positive attention, which we would rather give positive attention than not. So the second part of our Tier 2 system that we have really grown in this year is our sensory breaks, and the teachers have shared success story out of success story about how effective our sensory breaks have been. These sensory breaks, again, are very individualized based on what the students need. So it may be a large motor break, it may be a fine motor break, it may be a quiet break, it may be a loud break. It's not uncommon to see students running around our kindergarten wing. That's kind of like our racetrack. Not really, but if they need some of that large motor movement, or they need skipping, or they need to run for a little bit, or they just need a large motor break, we also have a path in there that they can take. They have a tent in there that they can kind of sit in if they just need quiet space. We have Legos, we have Uno cards. There's just lots of different things. So those are structured for about 10 minutes apiece. And we really have the teachers and the data drive those sensory breaks. What do the students need? Are they having a difficult time before wit and wisdom? Or are they having a difficult time transitioning back in from recess? That's when we would give that sensory break to empower the students to be ready to learn. So they've been super successful, and the teachers are very, very grateful for that time. All right, I think I also have the next slide. Or no, I think I'm turning it over to now it is Miss Pierce's turn.
Hi, I'm Rachel Pierce. I'm a kindergarten teacher here, and I also serve in the PBIS Flex position. So I help support our Tier 1 and our Tier 2 team. For Tier 1, I help with Source Shop experiences, setting up Source Shop every month that we have it. And I help secure our parent volunteers for Source Shop. And then I also have created a quarterly recognition that gets sent home to parents for our students who have been outstanding leaders within the building for the quarter. And those are teacher nominated. And then for Tier 2, I am an active member of Tier 2, so I do a lot of supporting check-in, check-out, training teachers from a teacher of what that looks like in the classroom, and how that check-in, check-out support looks. I also review the data and analyze the data and bring that to the team using Public School Works and our check-in, check-out data. So those smiley faces that Mrs. Hebrink talked about, we add up the percent per day, and then that's when we decide to move either down or up on our goals. So that is what I do for the PBIS Flex position. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what our Tier 2 team looks like and why it's different. So Tier 2 is really student-centered and student-focused. And we have a great team that we all collaborate together to come up with different interventions, supports, and ideas to help our students be successful in the classroom. We meet once a month, and in those meetings, we really talk about what each student looks like. Now, this information of the student name stays confidential, and we just talk about what we're seeing in the classroom and how we can best support their needs. So our goal is really to make sure that we are providing timely, targeted interventions, so that way we can allow the students to be successful and also reduce the barriers for learning, so they can stay in the classroom and make good choices and then be able to learn. So it's really a team effort. We all come up with different ideas throughout our meetings, and we've seen a lot of success with that. And doing that once a month has allowed for us to make pivots before we have increased problems.
So then that leads us into, what does a Tier 2 meeting really look like? It is a structured time. We meet in the mornings, and we do kind of a snippet of a professional development session. So this might be based on our building needs. This may be based off of behavior information. I went to a couple behavior conferences, and I brought that information back to the team, and then the team then shared that with the other teachers. So it's really teachers helping teachers and just gaining knowledge. So we usually try to, the first section of that Tier 2 meeting is all about professional development and growing our knowledge. And then kind of what Ms. Pierce just shared, the second part of that meeting, we transition into student data. And like Ms. Pierce also shared, it's also confidential. So we never share student names with the teachers that are in the room. We use an initial, or he or she. So that way we are never identifying who that student is out of respect to the student and the families. So then we will track that through the months that we look at the data, and we track that. We look at their goals, we look at the specifics. And then my favorite part of the meeting is where we say, this student has grown 20%, but this is still something that is difficult for them. And it's really just a huge collaboration session with teachers, and teachers sit and get to share all of the knowledge. And it's amazing. I mean, being a teacher myself, you've been stuck in this spot of like, I've tried everything. And then people share these great ideas and you're like, wow, I never thought of that. And just being open and being reflective and growing in your practice. So it's really awesome. It's a great time for teachers to share. So the teachers then will take those ideas back to their classroom, implement those ideas, and then come back the following month to share, hey, this is working really well. We had a student who had a difficult time completing work. So we talked about every time we get through a problem, we tape a golden ticket to every single problem, and they earn that golden ticket every time they complete a problem. Okay, the following paper, now we're going to give 2 problems, and they earn a golden ticket. So it's that slow release, but it's still getting the desired outcome that we want. And a teacher came up with that, and we're like, wow, like that's great. So again, it's just teachers helping teachers, using data to support those ideas, and then using our knowledge and sharing with each other, and then reflecting on that practice afterwards.
And then we are talking about our building impact. So what kind of came out of my administrator project is really training our staff on what Tier 2 is for PBIS and what that looks like. So what we have done this past semester, we've had a group of teachers attend Tier 2 meetings just to observe and see what it's like, and if they wanted to collaborate, that was also welcomed and awesome. So by the end of 2026, we're going to have all staff, including support staff, go to a Tier 2 meeting just to see what it's like and become familiar with the process. The goal is to build that understanding and to have that positive impact of Tier 2. And to help just give it different ideas for support for behavior, engagement, and success within the classrooms. The staff will see how Tier 2 operates collectively and that it's team-based problem solving. So it's not someone telling you what to do, it's kind of we're all working together to figure that out. And the whole point of us having the staff attend is just so we can build awareness within our building and get more people interested and wanting to try this with their students if they're seeing that need.
Hi everybody, my name is Kaylee Clark. I'm a 2nd grade teacher here at Stephen Bell, and I'm also a member of the Tier 2 PBIS team. I'm here to talk to you about a amazing success story that I had with a student that was actually in my room last year and is still in my room this past year. So this student last year was kind of struggling, just overall feeling successful at school, and was kind of lacking some motivation, struggling to complete work, and overall just struggling with a lot of behavior needs. So began the check-in, check-out system in October of 2024 with the goals of ownership and respect. So this kind of started off of us kind of creating a list of some things that would motivate him, whether that was candy, golden tickets, extra Chromebook time, that kind of thing. He would set his goal in the morning, and I was his check-in, check-out person for most of the year, and we would kind of talk through our day, what it was going to look like, how we could reach that goal, and it would just kind of be monitored throughout the day as needed, and that could even look as like a quick reminder of maybe we're struggling to stay on task during one part of the day, and I'd say, hey buddy, right now we're at a middle face, but what can we do to bump us up to that smiley face so he can meet his goal? And then around dismissal time, he would either check out with me and we would talk about how his day went, or he might stop by Mrs. Hebrink's office and check out with her and talk about how his day went, and if he reached his goal, he would earn whatever that reward was that he picked out at the beginning of the day. But what was really cool was he was really excited once he started to feel that success to share his success with others, whether that was me or Mrs. Hebrink or even his peers. It was really amazing to see that excitement from him seeing that he was able to reach that goal. So looking at the data, right after he started on his checkout sheet, he was quickly able to reach an 84%, which tells me that he was reaching his goal most of the time. And then following that, around December to the end of 1st grade, he was about at an 86%, which was amazing. So then thankfully, I was able to actually have him in my classroom this year as a 2nd grader. So knowing the student, I was able to quickly start him on the check-in, check-out sheet this past year as well, so he could continue to feel that success right from the start of the year. And he finished at a 95% between the start of school to around October, and he continues to see that success every single day, which I'm incredibly proud of. So then looking at student impact, check-in, check-out has been very successful for him because now he just wants to come to school every day. He's excited to come to school because he knows that he can be successful. He takes ownership of his behavior. He takes ownership of his work. He believes in himself. Many times, even if he doesn't meet his goal in a day, he'll say, Miss Clark, today was a hard day, but I know I can do it tomorrow. So even just that attitude of believing in himself has just been amazing to see. And again, he wants to share his success with others. So I've also got a lot of positive feedback from his family where they're seeing the behavior reflected at home as well, which has been really great to see. And just to know that it's not just making a difference at school, it's making a difference at home as well. And then classroom impact. When he started fall with me of last year, map testing was hard for him, but by the time he had started the check-in, check-out, it was actually able to motivate him, and by the time winter came, he bumped up his map scores in reading and in math about 30 points, which was absolutely amazing. He's also completing work more independently. He's getting fewer reminders about staying on track and just overall maintaining a calm learning environment. So, and then the teaching impact, I'm spending less time correcting those behaviors. So that's just, it's been amazing, and it's really overall changed the dynamic of my classroom. And check-in, check-out has definitely been something that I believe in, and it's definitely something that I will be using in the future. So thank you for your time. I'm going to pass it on over to Mrs. Henry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Henry. I am also a second grade teacher here at Stephen Bell. So last year, I was actually checking in and out every day with the first grade student in Miss Clark's classroom. So I was on the receiving end of her chart, her check-in, check-out chart. So she was working on ownership and respect. So every morning she would come to my room and we would set a smiley goal for her day. And then at the end of every day, she would come, she would bring me her chart, we would talk about it. If there was a in the middle face or a frowny face, I would get her perspective on it, and that would give her another opportunity for ownership. And she actually successfully graduated from her check-in and check-out chart last year and has been successful this whole second grade year, in my classroom without tier 2 and check-in, check-out support. So she actually brought it up to me at meet and greet this year, and she goes, Miss Olson, I don't want that chart anymore. And I said, if you don't want that chart, sweetheart, that's fine. Like, let's see what happens this year, but if we're gonna need that chart, that's gonna be okay. And we have not needed that chart all year. So she has made great success. Now for this school year, I have another student who is working on ownership and trying his best and improving his attitude towards school and learning. So if you look at his data, so for the first 6 weeks of school, he was meeting about 76% of his goal. And then we saw a good jump to 87%, and now we're seeing about 96%. So he has grown so much this school year. Me and Mrs. Hebrank were actually just talking about this. He has shown so much success. His whole attitude and perspective on school, I feel like, has changed. He has ownership about academics, about his behavior, about other friends. He is really turning into a great SOAR leader in my classroom. So if you look at our student impact, so he's being safe at school, he's showing ownership, he's having a good attitude. He actually asked to redo a reading fluency paper because he thought he could do better. It wasn't my prompting, it wasn't reading club's prompting. He thought, you know what, I actually think I can do better. Can I try that again? Which was the most success I ever experienced. He was so proud of himself after because he more than doubled his score. So we were so proud of him for that, as well as showing respect and care about his academics. He has grown 34 points on his math map this year and 24 points on his reading map. He has really been so successful, and he has so much respect for himself and his own schooling now, as well as my classroom impact. So my class has been such positive role models for him and encouraging him to show ownership and holding him accountable, reminding him, hey, grab your clipboard, hey, make sure you do that, and just checking in with him like, oh, you earned 7 smileys today, that's awesome, and just holding him accountable as well as celebrating his successes. My teaching impact, oh my goodness, my time invested in his behavior has drastically decreased. He knows what ownership is and how he should show it. He also knows that he needs to try his best, but it's also okay to ask for help. Like Mrs. Hebrank said, we're not asking for perfection. And I've told him that time and time again, and now he knows that we're not asking for perfection, and it's okay to ask for help. We are here to help you. And he now knows that he can come to me for help. He can go to Mrs. Hebrang for help. Miss Clark is right next door. He knows he has people in his corner and to celebrate his victories with him. So, I mean, so much has been impacted by him. And he is just one of the truly many success stories of our PBIS tier. So, thank you so much.
So as you can tell, PBIS Tier 2 has really taken off at Stephen Bell. Do you have any questions that we can help you with?
You guys are doing amazing. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
I don't have a question, just a comment. Again, thanks for focusing on behaviors. I think Ms. Clark said it, was it PEs? Focusing on the behaviors really is the key to then be able to focus on the educational needs of the student. Behaviors aren't in check, then we can't really focus on the educational piece. And Stephen Bell just does a great job of just setting the tone and setting kids off to a good start. And that's not just going to be a positive impact for this year, but continue in the future. The kid is now excited about coming to school. That's going to be next year and the year after and the year after. So really appreciate, I know you guys are extremely focused on this, and it really is paying off. So really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing.
Credit to the staff, the teachers, and the students for being willing to work with us. And thank you to our parent support and the board. Appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much. All right, up next, we would like to welcome Betsy Gann, our Director of Curriculum and Gifted Services. Thanks for coming tonight.
Hello, I am here to share with you a plan for world language curriculum development and just a little background. A year and a half ago, I started meeting with our world language team at the high school, so Spanish and French, of course, and started looking at potential adoptions because it was time. The last adoption was 2018. And the standards have been revised in Ohio as well. So 2020 was a revision year. So we worked together in a very traditional way, looking at what their goals were for curriculum, shopping, looking at different vendors, traditional type book vendors that we would look at in any content area. And I'll give you a little background and then propose a plan or show you what we are hoping to do. So why are we here today? I already mentioned, oops. Okay, there we go. The last adoption I mentioned was 2018. We had standards misalignment because of the standards revision. And in Ohio, the Ohio World Language Standards are aligned to ACTFL. That's the Council for Teaching a Foreign Language. And so we are proposing or looking for support for developing curriculum by the teachers for the students in the fashion of a one-year pilot. So I'm not proposing any traditional curriculum purchase tonight. We are sharing a plan to continue to develop curriculum, which is what they've been doing for some time since the standards misalignment. And we want to take that to the next level and really build in more consistency across Spanish and French and bring in all the latest evidence-based practices. So it is a non-traditional approach, and I'm not patient enough for that slide. So I already mentioned, instead of purchasing a vendor curriculum, our expert teachers will begin to develop those materials, which is what they have been doing for several years. And why does this matter? It will be designed specifically for the students' needs. They bring a lot of expertise to the table. We have our department chair, Michelle Mize, has worked with the state. She's gone to different focus groups. She sat on some teacher feedback type committees about the standards revision, and they have a lot of expertise right here in our departments. This ensures more consistency, like I mentioned, between both Spanish and French in terms of the way we acquire proficiency in a foreign language. So it's not like ESL, but the opposite. And there is a very different kind of approach compared to teaching English skills. This also provides us with an opportunity to own our district resources and to own that process and put that into place in a very structured way where we're very faithful to those materials that we have developed and tested out with our own students. Who does this impact? Grades 9 through 12, traditional high school world language courses, of course, except CCP. Those syllabi are directed by the university, etc., and textbook requirements. The 4 teachers that we have are experts, and you already know that we offer Spanish and French. So the framework we would be using is research-based. I mentioned the ACTFL standards, the American Council of Teaching Foreign Languages. They have specific guidelines for proficiency at certain levels. What are we looking for in terms of oral communication, written communication, cultural competence in the target language, etc., and using the Ohio standards, of course, which are definitely based on those ACTFL standards, and using performance-based assessment, speaking, listening, writing, and that kind of thing, and looking for specific targets at each level. And this is a synopsis. By no means is this all of the proficiency progressions by year, but for example, the ACTFL standards show us that we're looking for certain levels, novice, intermediate, and advanced learning in that target language. But within novice, or beginner phase, we have low, medium, and high. So the teachers look at all those different levels, and they target Spanish 1 around novice, obviously, and look for progression from novice low to novice mid to novice high. And some of these kind of go across in 2 or French 1, 2. So it's not perfectly aligned. It kind of stretches out over the 4 years. And we, in the Ohio standards, they refer to advanced low as being sort of a target for a stellar 4 years of world language acquisition. So those targets I just mentioned here, the year 1 novice mid, parroting stage, year 2 novice high, the bridge stage, and then we go to creator stage where we're actually producing in the target language, year 4 the storyteller, and there are expectations for all levels that you can see in your notes. We'll use those for backward planning, for developing assessment, and then the activities that will provide kids with enough practice to meet those expectations of the assessment and the standard. So it's been just an incredible learning experience for me. This is very different from the rest of the standards that I work with teachers. It's a whole different approach that I very much appreciate, very much performance-based versus specific knowledge items. So the development timeline. We want to start this development this spring, summer, and They would begin to develop those curriculum maps with the end in mind, that novice, mid, etc., that kind of terminology for those levels. Obviously, starting at French 1, Spanish 1, we're not sure how far we can get, but we have to start there so that we can build on that. In other words, we don't know how far we'll get this summer as far as development of the full courses. So the goal is to work hard on first level, second level during this first phase. In the fall, they'll begin piloting those materials and that curriculum, which is just all the resources, assessments, and experiences that they want the kids to have during next school year, and then build into our professional development days, along with an implementation plan, how we're going to reflect on how well that went, make some tweaks, and really focus on the adults first, like delivering that high quality evidence-based instruction, which they're doing so well already, but this is fine tuning and modernizing what they're doing. And then in the spring, we'd like to back, share with you a reflection of how that went, and then we're going to decide at that point, additional materials, or is this going to work to get students where we want them to be at the end of their time at Bellbrook High School in world languages. So it is a pilot, but it's not a pilot of traditional textbook kinds of materials. It's developing materials. So investment required as opposed to expense through a vendor, traditional professional development, etc. This is my best estimate right now. I sat down with the teachers, as you know, multiple times. We did some estimates. How long does it take to do XYZ? How long does it take to develop assessments, do research, and that kind of thing? So we have estimated, and this is on the high side because, you know, we won't work all summer on this, and teachers have families and busy lives in the summer, but this will be their planning for now. But I do have federal grant money that we can allocate to this purpose in late April, May, and June. All of this work is happening outside of the contracted work time, though. For stipends, that must be in addition to their work day. So they can kind of set their hours. We've talked about potential schedules in June, coming into central office, have air all summer, sitting together as needed, or them working independently. So that would be the teacher stipend line. Edpuzzle is an online technology tool where teachers can create instructional videos where kids can interact, which is nice. For world language, they gave me all kinds of specific reasons. I met with the vendor and I really like what I saw. That is the annual subscription for that. Blookit is another subscription that those teachers, I think all of them, or at least a couple, already have, and they pay for it themselves for their own material creation. So instead of just one teacher using a particular resource, we want to kind of standardize that and make sure that this is, you know, district supported work so that all students have the same kinds of opportunities and interact with the same tools, and the teachers all have access to that, and it's not cost prohibitive. Digital content and materials, about $2,000, and Google Classroom is where we would warehouse things like we do in most courses, but these are not online courses they're developing. This is just warehousing their tools for students. So approximately $16,350, and as you've seen in the past, compared to a traditional expense through a vendor, it's significantly lower. I mentioned Title IIA federal funds would cover initial development costs. We still have money in FY26 that we can cover this, and that would not be general fund, and then we would look ahead to what might be needed next summer, which I'm sure there would be follow-up on the work if we proceed in that direction. The ongoing technology subscriptions could be incorporated into the annual curriculum budget if these are working well, but we want to pilot those, develop the materials, and reflect on how the students did with them first before committing long-term. So you've heard about implementation science. We are working hard to create those systems and processes so that decisions like these aren't made in isolation. We have a lot of discussions around this at a recent DIT meeting, I think it was 2 months ago, where we go through an evidence-based check sheet, rubric that's been used in lots of different fields, not just education, but in the medical field, for example. Our instrument is, of course, tweaked for educational uses, but our district implementation team heard this plan, and then they go through and look at the criteria that makes viable option, so to speak, support. It's not necessarily an approval process, but it's designed to engage conversation. Like, have you thought about this? What about that? So these are the big buckets of criteria that we walk through with that checklist when we are proposing new curriculum and new initiatives, programs, practices, that kind of thing. What is the need? Strong alignment with district priorities. The team ranked 4 out of 5. The DIT team ranked at 4 out of 5. The 4, it's interesting, I shared this with the world language teachers, and they're, of course, teachers, you know what they said. Why did we only get a 4 on need? Well, we didn't have student data to prove we needed to change something. The data that I presented was based on the standards revisions, the age of the materials, those kinds of things. For example, that section will ask, maybe going back to like PBIS, what is the need? That would be where they might, if they were proposing a package that they could buy for the building to help them with behavioral issues and reducing tier 2 infractions and those kinds of things, they would identify student discipline data, for example. They referred to that in public schoolwork. So that's where we don't have that kind of data for world language. So otherwise, the team felt supportive of this plan. So this does capitalize on our teacher expertise. I've mentioned that already. They are very experienced, deep content knowledge. They speak the language of best practices in world language acquisition. Like I said, I'm learning a lot from them. Standards leadership, I've already mentioned participation and keeping their eye on what's happening, not only in Ohio, but nationally with world language practices. And implementation science, I mentioned that to you already. We've completed that first phase of looking at this plan as a district implementation team. So the next thing I would do is bring back to that team a 3-year implementation plan. Probably won't be 3 years since this is a pilot, but like what's next year look like? And if all that goes well, what would be next? And the kinds of things that show up on an implementation plan are adult support, so what do the teachers need? And then eventually you start looking at student outcomes. How are they doing? You know, and that's where we can begin to track data, how many students from novice, mid, as high in terms of their language acquisition. The key benefits of the approach, it's tailored to our students. Teachers own the materials, so I think when they are sitting down together and developing things that work for their student populations, we own that, and we want to see each other succeed, and we're more likely to continue to collaborate and share data. So it's a different kind of vibe, I think, with curriculum implementation compared to a traditional vendor learning, you know, what the curriculum looks like and everyone following their lead. Consistency and quality. So that standardized approach across both languages with clear proficiency expectations will certainly be valued. I gotta hit this button mid-sentence, I think. So what happens next? We're just asking for support today and answering any questions you might have. Again, this is a year 1, kind of a different approach. So, you know, we're not sure long term, but I'm feeling really good about it so far based on the conversations. and the work that they've done. Development phase would begin pretty soon, and then implement these units and reflect quickly on how that's going from a teaching perspective and from student perspective. And then we would look at putting together some kind of formal adoption, that would look like for the creation of the units, and probably package that in some pretty ways so that you could review that more closely. And that would be next spring.
I know you haven't even started yet, and don't ask me, but could you envision that, assuming things go well, could there be other places where an approach like this might fit? Because I'm looking at your key benefits line, tailored to our students, our community, teacher ownership. I mean, that sounds very exciting.
Right, right. Great question. I don't have to punt on that because I spent the day here at Stephen Bell today doing some focus groups for fourth quarter for the end of year 2 of implementation of our ELA curriculum that you know, certainly in the district. And so those conversations were tailored around ELA and how they were explaining that curriculum. Great feedback, phenomenal commitment from the teachers. But to get back to your question, asked about social studies because off K-12 social studies adoption this coming year, and so this has been on the table for a while with K-5. It's hard. Teachers said, you know, and there's so much of this in our written wisdom curriculum. That totally makes sense to me. I hadn't thought of it that way. The written wisdom is considered a building background knowledge curriculum, so the ELA standards are there, but through literature and informational text, we're teaching. We're teaching science concepts. We're teaching citizenship. We're teaching, I heard about lessons today, an entire unit about the wind and all the different literature and informational texts they're doing around wind and science and writing stories about the wind and so much more around that topic. And we started looking at that, and after they had to get back to class, I played around with it and did sort of a crosswalk and shared that with them. And it's incredible how many of the Ohio first grade standards are there. It's just a matter of being intentional and, oh, well, we've looked at, we've got this book about someone across the world and some things about where they live, and that's part of literature, but you can tie that into maths and understanding of geography at a first grade level, and so that standard or target could be hit with just a tweak here and there. So it's something I'm open to exploring, and I think it makes sense in a multidisciplinary sort of way, which we know is good teaching when we can make connections across lots of content, find the math in the science in the ELA class. So short, yes. The ELA curriculum and how it makes sense to tie it to our real world.
That sounds great. I know there's been talk for a number of years, like one of our district goals is processes and standardization, standardization. I love the fact that everybody's thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
We're not just looking for a rubber stamp, what can we buy and read verbatim, but there's still standardization at a department level,
right,
across the whole department, but looking at tailored. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and there's so much expertise right here with our staff, and then making connections outside our district. I was able to bring up a spreadsheet. We keep Miami Valley curriculum directors, a big spreadsheet, we update it when we adopt something new. So you can look and say, oh, I never heard of that. Like there was one we never heard of that was for social studies K-5. So we get ideas from that. I can call or talk to someone at a meeting and say, what was your experience? So using our networks and expertise and frankly, the vendors, they do know a lot about the standards and evidence-based practices. Sometimes that's great for our adoption processes, but sometimes it's just not quite right. So money savings, but also I just love the ownership. Now, to go back to your question, we can't do it for a lot of things, but yeah, for example, in a meeting I was in yesterday, area-wide math council meeting, we have a lot of pending legislation around that. And I'm happy to say some of the language relaxed, and it's pretty certain they'll come out with an approved list. But it looks like this fine. In this district, we don't feel a big urge. Yes, it's time to look at our math textbooks because it's been over 6 years, but, and that's our typical cycle. But our kids are, yeah, they're rocking it, and teachers in the area of mathematics. So that would be the kind of thing that would be too big of a lift. And if legally we have to choose from a list, then so be it. But we did look today, just another side note. You'll have to get the book here in a second. Our current math program, Everyday Math, is rated all green on Ed Reports, which is grading. It's a website with lots of professionals from across the country, et cetera, weighing in and doing deep dive analysis of standards alignment and effectiveness on learning for students. And we punched it up, and it's still all green, which is what ODEW will use when they make a list. If it's not all green in Ed Reports, they won't put it on the approval list. At least that was their approach with ELA. So, hey, I'm feeling good about that. Now, that doesn't mean we have to stay with that, but that was good news to know. They're happy right now, I think, with what they're doing with math, and it makes sense that it's all green. We're getting good results.
Yeah, for this particular, subject area, especially, world languages, where there's only 2 languages, there's 4 teachers, something like this is feasible to be able to pull off. The more teachers you get involved, the more grade levels you get involved, the more complex and challenging it becomes to be able to manage that whole thing, make sure all those things mesh together. But that's why I wanted to bring this up. Since it's a little different and unique of kind of what we've done in the past and some things, that's why I wanted to kind of get ahead of this year. If this is a plan for the year, see if there's any questions, comments, and then coming back next year in the spring to
Reflect on
how
how
kind of the curriculum figured out. So this particular area makes sense.
Question or kind of a reservation that I'm super supportive of piloting this. We have very experienced teachers in this department. I know they'll do this well. I guess my reservation is, how does this work if you don't always have those 4 super experienced teachers? How does it get documented? You talked about documenting your packaging it so that we can review it to approve it, but I'm more concerned one of those teachers needs, I know it's difficult to hire world language teachers, and if we get in a teacher that's a year or 2 out of school, and we can't hand them a textbook to teach from,
Right.
and they're trying to take a whole bunch of mishmash stuff that somebody created before. In order to approve this at the end, I would want to see something that's
absolutely. Me
looks
too.
like we get handed to somebody new that they can teach from it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we would definitely be documenting all of that. We have a program called Chalk, and it's our curriculum mapping software. So I'm not sure if you've seen any printouts from that, but I'd be happy to share. But we're going to be documenting everything in Chalk, and that would serve as their curriculum guide, with all the links to Google Drive.
Yes, we will.
All the list of literature or informational text videos that they would be using. It's very robust, including the standards alignment. You can print out the curriculum map, but print out that whole, like all the resources. You've got digital resources.
Yeah, I don't think there's digital, it's all saved in one
Yep.
spot, but it's
Warehouse.
easy to find and organized that if we had somebody new in the department.
Absolutely.
After a couple months of review or something.
That's a priority. We have, under the implementation science umbrella, we have an HR work team, and onboarding is part of that. And we have worked really hard on those kinds of thoughts because, let's face it, before we adopted, let's say social studies right now, if we had a new teacher, K-5, it's exactly what you're talking about. You're getting with the buddy teacher and you're saying, I don't know what to do. So documenting those things in our curriculum maps has been a priority. So this year we've been working on ELA because it's the second year of implementation. In February, teachers went back in and did revisions on their pacing guide. They added resources and notes. They made notes in there. So I could log in to new teachers, tell them how to find that during our first onboarding kind of orientation meeting. We get into Chalkish, and I show them where to find their curriculum map. So that's sort of that go-to, and then they can pick up books off the shelf, teachers' manuals. We have them for that content area, and go from there. But yeah, the maps are critical.
First, let me thank you for the opportunity to meet with you and give you an update on district facilities. Tonight I have with me Ray Watts. Ray has been with the district for 16 years, and I believe you know he's been named as our new maintenance director. Ray's doing a great job. In the interest of time, I won't put you through this exercise, but in your mind, think of how old do you think all of the average age of our buildings are? 45 years. So we know that there's a lot of districts around that are looking at new school buildings and things like that, but I think through the efforts of people like Ray and his staff, I think we do a pretty good job of trying to maintain the things that we have here and keeping it financially flexible for our community and making it the best for our kids and our staff. That's me. Sorry, I didn't learn from Betsy. What? Thank you, sir.
We hear you got to lead it.
Okay. Basically, where a lot of the ideas come from, we have two groups that contribute along with our administrative team. That's our facilities committee as well as our safety committee. So a lot of the ideas that you're going to see, I've kind of given you a snapshot of the work that we've tried to get completed this year, have come from these two committees. So, district-wide, one of the things we did over the winter to combat our Ohio winters is that we purchased another salt spreader. What we can do with that spreader is we now can put that in a district-owned pickup truck, which we can take back out, so it makes us multifunctional, and it allows us to salt at a quicker rate so that we can hopefully get more days in and less delays. Sorry, kids. Next, we've improved our security at both the transportation department as well as out as our stadium. We'd added some cameras, and we've also added a key fob system. So in order to get into our transportation department, all of the drivers and aides will have key fobs, but the general public and things like that will be locked outside. So again, hoping to promote a safer situation. Right here at Stephen Bell, this very floor that you're standing or sitting on is going to be completely refinished, sanded down, repainted. That's for safety purposes. You need to do that. You can only put so many coats of wax on top of it to make it good. So that's going to happen over this summer. Mrs. Tincher, our PE teacher, as well as Mrs. Keaton and Mrs. Hebrink have helped us design a new pattern for how the will function in PE classes, the different lines that'll come in. So we're going to get away from this tape stuff and things like that. Those lines will actually be painted into the floor. We've also, was mentioned earlier, that is a picture of the recess locker that we've put outside, allowing our teachers to have everything that they need right out there, and kids can help them out as far as getting the things that they need. The big news at BCI is coming in about a week. We are getting a new digital sign. It looks just like that, except for the bottom here it's purple. It's Bellbrook purple, okay? Around the outside it's not black, but it's a completely digital sign. It's wireless, no more sliding the little plastic letters in and kids creatively spelling things over the weekend. All that's gone. We can now use this to promote student achievements, talk about things that are coming up, advertise within the district and within BCI. So we're really excited about that. A big thank you to the BCI kids and staff. They raised 3/4 of the funding for this sign. And Ray was involved as far as running electric out to that, because as you know, the old sign was just a standalone. Again, at the middle school, we're going to be doing the same thing with the gym floors there. Actually, when they built the building, the auxiliary gym was a little bit narrow and a little bit short. So we're going to expand it out now that we are sanding it all down and repainting it. So it's going to create bigger play spaces, okay, at the middle school and the auxiliary gym. And our cafeteria tables, they were approaching 20 years old and starting to get kind of dilapidated, hard to move, falling apart. We went to a different model, which makes transitions in there a whole lot easier. That space, the cafetorium, is used for a lot of things. And those tables, there's 16 of seats at them. Seats and table is all one. So as far as moving things and moving them out of the way, it's done in 5 minutes, something that could have taken up to an hour, okay, for a custodian to do. Then moving on to the high school, in the first picture right here, we are replacing and servicing the exit doors. We were running into a problem. Kids would go out those back doors and they just think that they would shut. They would shut, but they wouldn't shut back and latch, because through the years from heat and things like that, the doors had swelled a little bit. So they would close, but it wouldn't latch, okay? We've got that. We're addressing that problem right now so that will promote better safety. The next project, the big one that we are just finishing up, that's our HVAC project. Basically, as you can see, this is our old chiller. It had a big old bump in it, and it was down. So there were 2 chillers at the high school. So if something were to have happened to the second one, they would have been out without air conditioning. As you can see, we've kind of upgraded to a new system which has multiple units so that it would have some duplicity in it, so that we can run off of that, and this should last for the next 20 plus years. Okay, as I said earlier, the average age of our buildings is 45 years old. We do our best to try to meet all the kids' needs and safety. One of the other things that kind of falls under my purview is buses. Our bus inventory, we are replacing 3 buses that are going to be purchased like right now. We'll have them in line and ready to go for next year. The state recommends that buses are in service for 10 years as a regular bus and then 5 years as a sub bus. All buses in the state of Ohio are inspected twice a year, and I'm happy to say, because of our outstanding staff, Mark Linkhart and TJ Lockhart down at the bus garage, all of our buses passed inspection, even the very old ones passed inspection. So when it comes time time to replace these, we could then sell them, and since they were past state inspection, we get a higher price for them. We are also looking, International is typically who we purchase from. They're looking at an engine redesign. And those of you that are in the manufacturing industry, you know that whenever there's a redesign, there's often bugs that have to be worked out. So we are looking to probably purchase 3 more buses, which was in our plan. We're just going to move that up and try to get them before the new engine redesign comes in so that we don't have to fight through those design flaws that may or may not be there. Okay. At BCI this summer, we will be replacing the chiller. Over at BCI, we have a pony chiller that's there, so there will be air conditioning there over the summer. It's just on a smaller basis. And since it's the summer and there aren't kids there as often, we do have some camps, but we should be fine. The chillers that we've had over there have had to be repaired several times. So as far as cost efficiency, we have partnered with Prodigy Building Solutions, and they are going to look at replacing those chillers this summer. The work is going to start here right at the beginning of June and should be completed by July the 17th. Again, leaving a little bit of room just because you never know what's going to happen. We want to make sure that we are ready to go for the upcoming year. This is going to it's a replacement so that the air quality at BCI should be the same as what it is. It's just we should get away from those costly repairs that have been happening. Okay, here in this building in Stephen Bell, we are going to actually change to a complete different system, and this brings, why is Ray standing here? Because Ray is the tech guy, and he's going to explain to you how and why we changed from an air-cooled system to a water-cooled system and what we can expect.
So at this building, that system there is what's called a dry cooler, and it functions simply by, unlike our homes, these buildings have a hot loop and a cold loop. It's just hot and chilled water that run through the entire building. And every room sucks from those to either heat or cool. Well, it has to then circulate it back out there, and it's picked up heat all through the building, and it goes out to that unit to get cooled. In more northern states, that works really well. We're below that, and it's been a fight the whole time I've been here. The loop for what's supposed to be the chilled water during summer months hits 108 degrees. To put that in perspective, tonight, right now, it's at 97. And I changed the temp in this room while I was sitting there. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but even at 97, we're able to chill the room a little bit, right? But it's not really ideal. But when it hits 108, it starts tripping out all the individual units throughout the building, which turns into a series of phone calls, and myself have to come, and then sometimes I have to get other guys because it creates problems with things breaking down. Much like your car or anything else, when it gets hot, it has problems, right? We have systems that alert us of that, but the first step is it shuts it down, and now that hot room has nothing. And that happens quite a bit to you guys. And we come and try to get them back up and running as soon as possible. Never kept up. The system is a cooling tower, and instead of being so horizontal, it'll be more vertical. And probably in June, more than like if you've ever been to Cincinnati Zoo, they have the misters set up. It's a real hot day, and everybody's flocking to that fan with the misting water. It's the same thing. That water is going to be flowing over all those radiators, and it will create evaporation, and then that's going to better cool that. So even if we can get it down to like tonight, 10 plus degrees from where we've been, it would be a huge increase. Beyond that, energy savings, because if you look at all those fans, that's a lot of energy. Every one of those has a motor that's sucking energy and running non-stop at full bore. They don't slow down, and today was one of our hottest days probably this year so far. But yeah, those things just go. And the new tower we're getting, it's going to have like 1 or 2. So it should do you guys really well.
And it'll be quieter?
It'll be more quiet.
Talk to them about that. It's called Whisper Quiet technology, and they've assured us that.
We're kind of used to it by now, but.
They've done sound tests, decibel tests to know how loud it will be, and it will be actually quieter than what's there now.
Yeah. Decibel wise, it'll be a little better, but also you don't have a whole fleet of them.
Right.
It's going to be one or two.
Sounds like a plane ticket.
Yeah, bet.
And then this summer at BCI, we will be replacing some of the flooring. If you've been into the library, it's really starting to show its age. One of the other things that we're going to go with, it's a local company, All Star Flooring. We're going to go with carpet squares rather than just big long rolls of carpet. That way, if there's an accident or a tear or something like that, we can just replace one section rather than the entire carpet or trying to patch that out. At the middle school this summer, I can tell you from July the 6th to July the 20th, you won't be there. So you have to be moving your board meeting because we are going to seal coat the entire lot. We're trying to get, it was amazing to me, the cost in parking lots. So we're trying to make it last as long as we possibly can. So we're going to be filling all the cracks, seal coating it, cleaning all the vegetation out of it. Hopefully getting it to last as long as it can, but as you can see, both the red and the green areas are going to be seal coated this summer, starting on July the 6th, and they should be finished by the 20th. Okay, and then in this building, we are going to work on some renovation of the flooring and all of the restrooms. There's 8 restrooms within the building. We're going to go in, take all the cove base off, replace that, paint the walls, and put new flooring down in all of the restrooms, which will really brighten up and make the building look a lot fresher for our youngest of learners. I think that's it. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I've learned a lot in this position so far. I do have one quick commercial. Man, if you haven't heard about it by now, you must be living under a rock. But next Wednesday, the Harlem Wizards are coming. Another one of the functions that I do is help to coordinate BSEF along with Dr. Pryor. It is our primary and hopefully only fundraiser for the year. BSEF is the group that their biggest thing that they do is promotes teacher grants. Since 2014, they have allocated $295,000 worth of teacher grants. So they do an awesome job. And what I always used to tell my teachers is we want you to think outside the box. How can you make this lesson come alive? And if you see some financial hurdles to that, let's write a BSEF. Let's see if we can get a teacher grant. This is what we're raising the money for. So our teachers can continue to be creative. So I want to thank them. We have 23 of them playing in that game on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Tickets are still available online, so please come out and see Hoops Hebrink, Clark the Shark, Josh, Warden of the Paint Ward, and Dr. Dunk.
Dr. Dunk.
Okay, who will all be playing on Wednesday night. Tickets are $15 for students, $17 for adult, pre-sale, okay? And there's other ticket packages that are there. But it's been a great group. We've had a lot of people step up and help, a lot of new people, new faces that I'd like to thank for their efforts in BSEF. Sitting there just checking, we just crossed the 500 ticket threshold. So we've sold 500 tickets so far. We'd really love to see us get to about 800. I think that would set us up great. Any questions?
Dr. Pryor isn't playing with the Wizards?
No, I'm too. I'll be in the concession stand the whole time making hot dogs. So
You seem like a basketball player to me.
Thanks for all your hard work on the projects. You know, we're kind of, I know our average age is 45, a lot of our buildings were renovated 30 years ago or
That's
built.
young.
And so,
45 is super young. It's fine.
So those things are breaking down or need renovated, and it's getting that time that we just need to keep up on those things before they get out of hand, and then they're really, so being smart with our taxpayer money, you know, upgrading things when we need them, and just thanks for coordinating all that. Appreciate it.
yeah, thank you so much for all your work with all the facility maintenance and the BSEF and the Wizards. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Love it. Love it. Stay busy.
All right, we're gonna move into our own reports to the board. Got a list here. Our OSBA Legislative Liaison, Dr. Pryor, anything tonight?
I'm doing the legislative report. Right, okay.
Yep,
okay.
legislative.
Well, not much, everything I mentioned last time is still in committee, so there's not that much interesting. There's a House Bill 304, which would allow kids to use club sports for PE waivers, so that would be great if that happens. House Bill 594 would require all students to take a computer class. And House Bill 66 would bar middle school and high school athletes from getting name, image, and likeness compensation. Those are all still in committee. So, there's, not that much imminent, and I'm leaving any type of property tax, anything for, Mr. Gotham to tell us about, because that's why we hired him. He's brilliant at that.
Questions? Thank you. OSBA Capital Conference Student Achievement, Mrs. Anderson.
Two things came through student achievement that kind of perked my interest. Again, this Dr. Pryor mentioned House Bill 304 also includes the recess bill, which would require us to provide 2 30-minute recesses per day in grades K through 8. They kind of flipped that and said, yes, play is important, but how much classroom time can that take away? So just wanted people to be aware of that. And then also they are launching a study about screen time in classrooms. Several districts are going away from the one-to-one technology and going back to paper and pencil. Xenia is one of them that is kind of kicking that around. So that's just on the radar. So if you have strong feelings about that, please make sure you let those people in Columbus know. Not going to make a difference, but it's there. So those are the 2 things listed out.
Get to hear hopefully some more about the SEF.
Oh, yes. So I was just going to talk about the Harlem Wizards 2. Wednesday night, it's going to be so much fun. Big, huge, awesome basketball players doing all this cool trick stuff, playing against our wonderful teachers, Dr. Kozad, Mr. Trick, so many of them, and it's going to be hilarious. I think there's a group of teachers who are going to be cheering. And you can get tickets like a $40 ticket for a courtside plus ticket seat for your kid, who gets to then meet the team and warm up with the team. I mean, it could be a dream for a kid who loves basketball. So it just seems like it's going to be so much fun and a wonderful fundraiser for BSEF. I'll be in the concession stand. Come visit me. It's just going to be great. So I hope everyone comes. If you just Google Bellbrook and Harlem Wizards, you will find the place to get tickets.
Do you all need help? Can the board members help do something? Can we take tickets, or?
I think we have a ton of people signed up, but Mr. Eckley, if we need any more,
happy to pitch
let
in.
us know.
I'm not playing basketball.
Yeah.
Financial Advisory and Safety Committee. Maybe Dr. Kozad to share for that, since Mr. Price couldn't be here tonight.
The Safety Committee did meet a couple of weeks ago. I'm trying to think back if there was any particular thing that was unique to that. Again, the one piece was we did have a in-service with our staff a couple weeks ago of really just focusing on safety with our staff and our students, and really trying to focus on some pieces of if active shooter or things like that happen in our district, of what are some of the responses, and so trying to just make sure our staff is prepared for those, working with our SROs, working with the city and the township on those. So that's one particular piece. The others, we discussed our school safety officer that we're in the process. That job is posted for the middle school, and looking forward to going through those interviews and so forth. And both the city and the township are both involved in those interviews, just because those are the experts in the area and trying to get their input. I think those are kind of the main pieces of that. Mr. Eckley, do you remember anything else that's besides those pieces? There's always little nuances here or there that are discussed during those. safety meeting. Right. With our staff of fight, flee, or barricade, really going through those options as a staff member and making the best decision you could possibly make. Hopefully that horrible day never comes, but just our staff going through those options beforehand and helping ensure that everybody stays stable.
Last on the list are active shooter response team implementation committee. We've not had a need to have kind of an out-of-cycle meetings. Things are going very well there. All right, anyone else got anything for board reports? So open communication. Is there anybody on the list? All right, so nobody signed up tonight, so we will move past open communication and into the superintendent's report.
Yep, thank you very much. So again, this is a consent agenda. 6E is the approval of the consent agenda. So 6A, certificated license employment, resignation, leave of absence, supplemental duty, and pupil activity. And then that is A. B is administrative, central office employment, resignation, leave of absence. And then C is support staff, resignation, leave of absence. And then D, substitute employment.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Dorn and Mrs. Anderson. Is that our first motion?
Yes, I think it is.
Sorry. Moved by Mrs. Dorn, seconded by Mrs. Anderson for tonight's consent agenda.
Yeah, just to highlight a few, we do have a few of our new staff members, so as soon as they're approved here in a second, that we will introduce them. We've just had a few openings this school year, for next school year, that has been very different than in the past, where we've had 30, 35, 40. We probably are under a handful or so. So that's great for us. It's some stability in our school district. So that's fantastic. People come here and they stay here. So we appreciate that. Again, administrative contracts on there for those folks that are up for that. Trying to see. And then just as we always do, a few resignations at this time.
Questions? All right, we got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor.
Yes.
4 yeses.
Mr. Klein, do you want to introduce? And then we'll go over to Mr. Ward to introduce. Yep.
So Delilah Kreitzer, one of our 6th grade or 7th grade math teachers, had a baby who's going to stay home with her family. So congratulations to her. Opened up an opportunity for someone to come to her new family. And Meredith was incredible through the whole process. I've never had as many recommendations from as many people as her. So the things that people said, Mr. Eckley, Jenna Hill, Lindsay Allen, it was incredible. And so the best thing I can say is we had an incredible pool of candidates. When I went and I talked to the committee that put it all together, and we spent a lot of time deliberating, one of them said, well, yeah, she was the obvious choice from the jump. And so to stand out that much, there were teachers with lots of experience. And she's fresh out of college, so she's a Bellbrook person. She helps out with our basketball program. She's done volleyball stuff still with Ms. Allen. She's going to be an incredible asset to our building. We were really excited to have her. When I talked to the staff, some of them have had her in class. They were really excited. So it's going to be great to have her on board.
Thank you all for all this, and just excited to be back. So
We are really excited to have her.
All right, I get the pleasure of introducing 2 new staff. Our current administrative assistants are taking their talent up to the middle school, so we had 2 vacancies, and I couldn't be more excited to introduce these ladies to take over that role and continue the positiveness of BCI in our front office, the face of the building. First, Ms. Caitlin Elliott. She her roots are here in Bellbrook. She has been in lots of our buildings, most recently helping out in the central office. She knows the district. Her and I are going to be working hand in hand, supporting families with attendance, and obviously everything else that the building needs. So we're really excited to have Caitlin join the team. And then also Miss Paige Adelot. So she is coming to us by way of Centerville. Prior to that, she was in West Carrollton. Lots of experience working with student data systems, working in front offices, working in central office and curriculum. And also brings an energy that we're going to continue to have at BCI, and I think I'm really excited about that and the experience that Paige will bring. So we're really excited and happy that they're going to be joining the team.
Thank you very much. Well, congrats. 7 other items. So we have 2026 summer athletic youth camps. So recommend approval of the following 2026 summer athletic camp is high school girls lacrosse K to 9.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Pryor, then Mrs. Anderson.
Again, we had a few in the past few meetings, so this is just yet another one for our summer.
Please call the vote.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
4 yeses.
Thank you. Next, we have draft job descriptions. Recommend approval of job descriptions for student technology intern and student communications.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Pryor, then Mrs. Anderson.
So at the last meeting, we had the communications intern, and then the student tech intern is new this time. I'm just asking for approval of these tonight. Again, they're pretty straightforward. It's just providing extra help to Mr. Conte for the communications piece and website, and then to our technology department, Mr. DeLong, and the rest of the folks there. We're undertaking a new website at the communications piece, and then last board meeting, I can remember 3,000 devices for the students that are going to buy Chromebooks, so that is going to provide some extra hands on deck for all those devices on the technology.
Are these just for the summer?
These are just summer positions. Yep. Again, either a upper level, upperclassman, high school student, or maybe just somebody that's graduated or so, somewhere in that range. Just trying to give experience to some young people, either in high school or right out of high school.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Dr. Pryor,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dawn.
Yes.
4 yeses.
All right, so the next ones are items for discussion information. So a first read, this is the first read, draft policy revisions edition. So this is draft changes just for the attendance. Remember a few months ago or so, we had a lot of different draft policies, and so this is just one that we continue to work on and try to align to the handbooks, which will be the next piece here. So just trying to mirror the changes with the state. So this is the first read. We'll bring it back on to the next board meeting. So if you have any comments tonight, or then between now and the next meeting. No?
I just have a question about that one. It says, you know, in the big green paragraph, like, you have to have a written or emailed explanation from a parent or student from every absence. Could we write phone call? Like, are we still allowed to just call in and say my kid was sick all night and they're not coming?
I'm sorry, where is that?
Just write,
What page?
right on the
First page?
I think the first page, yeah. In that big green paragraph, it kind of, kind of emphasizes it's got to be written or
Okay, I thought.
email. And then the very next sentence it says, while you may notify the school by phone, a note does not automatically guarantee, the
Okay.
absence is excused. I would just,
Yeah, I thought that had been changed somewhere, but it was a communicate with the district. So whether it was
Right.
an email, parent square message, phone call, so I will clean
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah.
Yep,
Just to make sure. And
yeah, I thought that had been done, so maybe it was done in another place there.
And
Sorry, before you
go
go
ahead.
on, I do remember when we met with Neola, the representative kind of saying the way, see how it says in accordance with statute, the way the statute is worded is confusing in that way.
Okay.
So it's trying to if we try to clarify it, we got to make sure it doesn't stray from the confusingly worded statute. That's kind of why it's written in the way it is, because it's mirroring the language in the statute. But
And we all know how clear those are.
correct.
No. Okay, I just want to make sure parents know if they're allowed to still be calling kids out and not sending.
Yeah, I thought that had been, I thought somewhere in here it had said communication, because that was something that, whether it was an email or a parent square message or a phone call, and so I'll check in there and see if that is something that can be changed. But I thought that had already been addressed somewhere.
And I also noticed the handbook talks about chronically absent now, and I don't know that there was anything or much in here using that phrase. I don't know if it needs to be or not. But anyway, that's just something to mull over.
Chronically
Yeah,
absent
so-
is in that policy. It's right here.
So it's on page, it says intervention strategies, the term chronic absent means a student has missed at least 10% of the minimum number.
Okay.
Yep, so we have to notify folks at the excessive absence, see if we can follow this, excessive absence, this is why this was a holdover.
Okay.
So we have to notify people at the excessive absence, which is 38 more hours a month, or 65 in a year, but really, things can go in place before that, but there has to, like I said, 10% of the minimum number of hours, which is about 100 hours, because we have about 1,001 is the minimum, or the hours required in a school year, the 1,001 for grades 1 to 12.
And so, because they made new rules, right? Because it was all last year at 65 was the max number, and now it's 100, but we still notify at 65. That I was just trying to make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's why it was a holdover. We're trying to get our head around it.
Well, and we also didn't want to make this take effect mid-school
Right,
year
right.
because that makes it wonkier.
Makes sense.
Okay, so the communication piece, I will double check on that. Yeah, that's the intention, is it doesn't, it can be a phone call, maybe parents for a message, it can be an email. Anything else on that? All right, again, that's just the first read, we'll bring it back next time, and then, so, next is draft student parent handbooks for 26-27. So again, there was a absence piece added, this excessive absences will be added to each of the handbooks in that section. All those PDFs had already been made, and so it was going to complicate things if we had just been working on the attendance piece through the attendance policy. So that will be added to each of the handbooks in the attendance threshold section for each of them.
So I just have a couple questions about attendance. What I noticed comparing like the new rules and this seems to be, it seemed like last year, previously, like a medical note from a doctor's excuse, then those missing hours like don't count against you for anything last year. And now it seems like they still add up to your limit.
Yes.
So that's a big
It's a
difference.
change.
Parents, need to know. 'Cause
100 hours. Yes.
Right. So, even if, you have doctor's notes at 65 hours, you're going to hear from us probably that you've missed that much. And 100 hours, what happens? I don't.
Well, those strategies that are in there at the end, the intervention
Okay.
strategies. Yep. So you got a warning at the 38 and 65 level, and then things can go in place at the 100 level.
Okay. So that was the main takeaway. And for me, it's okay. The notes aren't the key any longer. Is like they used to.
Right. And the other piece in our the handbooks is we will only accept parent notes, not doctor's notes, parent notes for up to 65 hours.
Okay.
So a parent can't just write a note that they're sick and their student is at 150 hours and it's all excused. After 65 hours, they can get the doctor's note
doctor's
or
note.
something else can be excused.
Okay, okay. All right.
That is a change.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions on him?
Yeah, just to highlight a few
It's
things.
first read, so
Some of the bigger
quickly,
changes, the
don't.
attendance pieces, the violations at the end of those books, some of the 3 or the 4, just a better line throughout the district. So, even though there seems to be a lot of crossing out, redlining through a lot of it's the same thing. It just is maybe reworded a little differently. And then there is valedictorian, salutatorian clarity in this particular in the high school handbook. So those, again, on each one of those 3 or 4, I think the changes are highlighted at the beginning. One of them is at the end. I think high school is at the end. I think the other 3 at the beginning. So that kind of just gives you an idea of what page some changes are on. The attendance thing there are quite a few changes, but again, we essentially just redlined last year's and just put a whole new policy in, even though some of it might be the same. It just seemed easier that way rather than our process.
That index of changes is very helpful. I appreciate that very much. 'Cause I know I read everything, but this just being the first read, I know I'm going to read it a couple more times for sure.
I have a question about the, on page 23, the valedictorian and salutatorian stuff. I noticed we'll start including the 7th semester of year-long classes. Thank you so much. I think that will be very fair. I just wanted to double check. It says, for senior recognition only, Val, Sal, Latin honors, GPAs will include progress points. Quarter 1, quarter 2, semester 1 exam will be calculated into GPA for 7th semester of year-long courses. So that means like the 7th semester of the year-long course will be added to the GPA like it was a semester class. Is that what that means? Like, like how they do quarter 1 plus quarter 2, and then they double it and add the exam and divide by 5. Like just the same? Okay, that sounds great. That's
Yeah,
okay.
Yep,
Yeah, that
that's the way
sounds
I
great.
understand it, correct.
That
Yep.
sounds great. Thank you.
And do we have an athletic handbook that we do later in the summer?
It's going to be on the next.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss a link. Okay.
No, that is on.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I have a couple more questions. I'm sorry, I spent a gazillion hours reading this handbook. On page 26, the college credit plus stuff section, there's a sentence under college credit plus that says, courses must be taken during the BHS academic year. I've never been clear what that means. Like, I know kids take them over the summer, so I don't know what that means.
Where's that at?
On page 26,
I'm there.
it just said in the bottom paragraph, college credit plus, courses must be taken during the BHS academic year. And I
Mr.
don't know
Hand?
what that means.
Say it again.
Needs to be
Okay.
corrected.
All right, okay. And then it also says no more than 7 high school credits may be accepted in one academic year. I don't know what that
Has to be struck.
Okay, all right. It's because I mean, kids have been taking more than that, and so I just wondered, that was confusing. Okay, all right. I do have some comments. Wanted to talk about the PE waiver section on page 27. I've heard from a few students that were, confused recently about PE waivers and thought, they might get a PE waiver for being a team manager or a wrestling statistician. And some schools do offer that. Kettering gives PE waivers for those team roles that aren't athletic. And I think, I think this policy is very clear, but for some reason, a few people are still confused. I'd love to, put a number 4 down there that says, wrestling statisticians, team managers, and non-athletic team roles do not get PE waivers. But I would like, if possible, to grandfather in and include students who've already been doing it, thinking they were getting a PE waiver. We have given PE waivers in the past to those roles, and there may have been some miscommunications and students thinking they would get one, or coaches thinking they would get one. So obviously my first priority with any of our policies is they're completely legal. I would only want to do that, if we're allowed to give a PE waiver for that, which I think we are because Kettering does. But I'd also want it to end, so because I personally think PE waivers should go to, the athletes. But, I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys to think about if anyone, anyone has any thoughts on that.
So I kind of heard two things. One, I'm looking at it here, adding a 4. Could you say it again of like, statisticians, managers?
Yeah, like wrestling statisticians, team managers, and other non-athletic team roles do not get PE waivers. But then I would want to add, unless they completed their two seasons with the sport by the end of the 26-27 school year. So that would mean a student who's already done it for a year, thinking they would get a PE waiver, could still get it, but no one new could start. So we, get rid of that. And
Yeah, so that's the second.
right, so that would be the second thing. So anyway, that's what I think would be great to do, just because I do feel bad for students who, knew another kid got it and they thought they would and they did the same job. But also, I do feel that PE waivers should go to the athletes. And I know some schools like Kettering, I called their athletic department, they do give PE waivers for team managers and statisticians, but, our board can, make their own policy about that, whatever our administrators want. So, anyway, that was just my thought on that, to perhaps make a win-win situation.
So while I think it might be wise to clarify that that doesn't count, if you on ODEW's website, they specifically state a school district cannot apply a waiver retroactively.
Right.
Waiver policy goes into effect the date the district's board approval. So if we changed anything, it wouldn't help anyone that did something this school year.
Well, it wouldn't really be a change. I'm pretty sure that part means, like, when they first made that PE waiver, you couldn't use it for, retroactive after that. We already have PE waivers, and we have given PE waivers for those roles.
It's talking about our waiver policy goes into the effective date of our board's waiver policy. So our waiver policy does not include that currently. If we tried to make it retroactive, we could not. That's how I read it. But regardless, I think I'm fine with administration chewing on it. And for any of these, if any of us find little blips that need to be updated, or hey, this is confusing, if perhaps the administration could come back at the second read and kind of with these are our recommended list of updates or whatever, because I think there's going to be a bunch and we're not going to want to sit here and amendment these to death by the board.
So-
I don't know how it normally works. I don't remember.
So for this particular situation, Mr. Hannon and I have looked into this extensively. This particular PE waiver piece has been in the student handbook for years, and if there was any kind of person that received this in the past, it was due to a clerical error, and therefore be used as an example or to give somebody based on clerical error. So this information has been in there. It's been very clear. Mr. Hannon and I have talked a lot about this, and just things are clear in here, and the any information that students receive about things should be in the handbook and/or should be through the proper channels, and to have talk to people that are the ones that are giving the credit or signing off on the credit, and so working through those channels. Mr. Hand, I believe, and I want to speak for Mr. Hand, but I believe I will on this, that, if we talk extensively, that this is pretty clear in here, that you have to practice and participate in competition. That has been in there for years, and so a team manager, a statistician, they do not practice or participate in competition. So if they were told some wrong information or misinformation, it should have been, should have been verified through the handbook. So that is my particular thought on that. Trying to be fair to everybody.
Or a counselor, right? I mean, our counselors
Correct.
didn't give that information.
No. Just trying to be fair to everybody, but also that this information has been in here for quite a long time.
You're pretty sure there was just one time, a student got a PE waiver for being a wrestling statistician?
Again, I don't want to talk about particular students, but if anybody was given a PE waiver that that did not practice or participate in competition, it was totally due to error, and I would not want to use a situation that came about in error to then use that to then provide somebody else with the same kind of thing, because then you open up the floodgates of other people that were team manager, statistician, that were given. Because I think we can agree the spirit of the PE waiver is I don't have to take PE class because I am basketball, and football, cross country, I'm marching in sports that are active. And so that's the intent of the just my thought.
I would agree, yeah. Especially if there's others that didn't get it, so but I agree with adding the explanation of that number 4 bullet point. I think that's great.
I may have
And there are accolades those students do get, by the way. I mean, I know that some students have gotten varsity letters for participating. They've gotten lots of service hours.
They do get those things.
So it's not that those efforts are going unrecognized.
Yeah, they put a ton of time in. There's no doubt about that. There's no physical piece to it.
And I believe, is there potential legislation coming down the pike, maybe about waivers?
For PE waivers?
Yes.
I don't think so.
There's just one to use club sports.
Oh.
I know that one.
Yeah, that you,
Yeah.
okay.
Which that seems like an incredible nightmare to try to enforce.
I'm thinking like, who is saying what a club sport is and how much, and who's signing off on that, and that seems to be challenging. So that's fair enough. But if it's the will of the board for us to add a number 4 clarifier, even though I believe it is, I believe it is clear now, but if it's the board's will to add that as a clarifier, number 4, and then come back with that.
I may have a slight problem with that, just almost from a philosophical standpoint. I think I'd want to hear that perhaps if there was an error in the past, that it was due to the language not being clear enough. I mean, as I read it, a student must physically participate, practice, participate in competition in a minimum of 70% of the season. Like, I feel that's pretty clear. When you start adding language, or when you start, again, philosophical, start adding enumerated lists of exceptions, well, now it's like, okay, and sorry, I forget the language, but if it was manager and statistician, then it's like, well, okay, well, you didn't mention this role or this role or this role or this role, so it kind of might introduce more ambiguity.
Equipment manager.
Don't get me started on our
Announcer.
Bill of Rights and whether or not they, enumerate certain rights or they exclude all others. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's just something that I
fair.
thought of
I agree,
during
Mike.
our conversation here. Like, okay, we didn't mention, I don't know, water boy. So is that maybe okay then?
Well, I would definitely say, and other non-athletic roles. But, it's been written like this for several years, and we've still had confusion. And a girl who graduated last year got a PE waiver for being a wrestling statistician. So we just need to make sure this is communicated clearly through the athletic department, make sure that that's, you know,
And maybe we can cross-reference it with the handbook as well.
Yep.
I'm sure it's
Right.
there somewhere.
Or in the athletic handbook, but
I mean, I certainly do feel bad for the students who thought they were getting one, but I do think, you know, normally it should only be for an athletic role. But I just wanted to know what anyone's thoughts were since other schools do give the waivers for that. But
Maybe that's just a point of training or a note on just calling out. To me, it's pretty clear. Physically
Clearly.
participate, practice, participate in competition. It just needs highlighted.
Yep.
well, and I would,
That's pretty ambiguous.
as a parent of a rising senior, now finishing junior year, I will say I was very impressed with juniors come home with a list of all of the credits they need to graduate that the counselor has gone through and circled. These are what you have, and this is what you still need. So at the end of junior year, you know this is what you have to do to graduate. And it's not from, it's from your counselor, and it's in writing, and this is what you have to sign up for. So, and for something like phys ed, you get that note, you realize you still need it, you've got time, fix the problem. So,
Right, and any of the counselors
kudos, I didn't know they did that, and I thought that was super well done.
Right, and any of the counselors are willing to do that even prior to junior year if you just want to make an appointment. I just had one with my daughter, and it was fantastic. So, yeah, reach out to those counselors.
okay, well, thanks for your input.
Again, those are all first reads, so bring that back next.
And if we find little things, we just bring them to you, Dr.
Yeah, if
Kozad,
they're-
and
yeah, if
then
they're-
we'll
yeah.
kind of
Yeah, if
highlight
they don't really change
the,
the kind of meaning of something. Sure. All right. So next is item for information. May 4th through the 8th is Staff Appreciation Week. So our next board meeting was going to be after Staff Appreciation Week, so we're trying to be proactive of just on behalf of the board and the entire district, just extremely appreciative of all of our certified staff, classified staff. That's why it says staff appreciation. It's everybody working together. It's a team effort. You know, from the kids getting on the bus in the morning, and those folks welcoming, to our cafeteria workers, to all the staffs that is in the classroom, or aides or custodians, just everybody, administration, everybody working together. It is truly a team effort, and don't really realize, I guess you do realize, but don't really, you know, there's the number of hours that everybody puts in to go above and beyond for our students, and that's why we are so successful, because it is a team effort, and our staff is really appreciative of everybody, just the team effort, and thank you very much. Great, and then Mr. Eckley gave you a little bit of information on why the July 16th board meeting, if you picked it up. July 16th board meeting, I think, July 16th board meeting, so we need to move that meeting because the middle school is getting, the asphalt is getting resealed during that time. And so just the timing of those companies and when they can do it, can't do it, and whatever else. So we need to move that board meeting to somewhere else. I would suggest probably not here, because I think during that time, Stephen Bell doesn't have any air conditioning, because they're getting new air conditioning. So we've got a lot of stuff going on in the district. So again, it could be at the high school, could be at BCI.
we know
could be at
BCI,
Central.
or the high school has great air conditioning, right?
Well, definitely, and BCI would have air conditioning. So we can do either one of those, if we want to think about that and come back at the next meeting. It doesn't have to be made today. Mr. Eckler, do you have a suggestion? Oh, the cafeteria. So we might be down to the high school.
I'm fine with wherever is easiest for the administration,
Right.
as
Yeah,
long as we've got some
Whoever's willing
requirements,
to
but-
have us.
All their air conditioning is going to be up and going. So we want to do high school. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
And then
If it's easier
Right.
to do that.
Easiest for setup.
Unless they have to be the SEC, and I don't know if we want to do that.
if you would like to do that,
I don't want to do that, but
Okay.
we can go wherever.
I mean, we
is
can do the
least
high school. If
inconvenient.
everybody's with the high school, that's fine. If you want to do the SEC, that's fine too. High school. Let's do high school. Okay. Perfect.
Anything else? All right, a lot of good information, really appreciate it. I am making a motion to adjourn. Does my motion have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Mrs. Anderson as a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Pryor,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dawn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey.
Yes.
4 yeses.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:50.